Hey
Hey,
Rex,
yep.
do you have any advice for trading this sideways price action? Because I feel like I get faked out quite often. And I was looking at the L Brooks material, but it looks like it's pretty uh, large. But I feel like I'm just struggling with this sideways price action on reaction areas.
Well, I didn't recommend Al Brooks material. So, I mean, I did mention it, but, you know, I'm not being arrogant here, but I've distilled all the best price action stuff into the training. So if you have my training, you have all the distilled best price action training that exists out there. Uh,
Order fill.
so the easy answer, the simple answer is you have to trade from conviction and you have to trade from one control chart. So that's really the key. The key is one control chart. Which one do you believe? Which one are you trading from? And then the other charts really, I mean, you're using the 4 chart setup, right?
Yeah.
So right now you're either everything's biased long. So if you're fading the market like I am, or I just reversed. But you're fading momentum on every chart. But it really depends. Like here, you have to trade the extremes, meaning that you can't chase the trades when you're in between 2 strong levels. That's the number one. The first thing you need to recognize is from a level perspective, we're in between 2 strong levels. So whenever you're in between 2 strong levels, it's every trade's 50-50, but I don't know what the right word or phrase for it is. It's even more 50-50, I guess I should say, because you're not at an extreme. There's no real, literally we're between 2 strong levels, or we're between a weak level, which is where the RDA, if you look at chart 4, it held the RDA on the last 2 tests. This is the NQ, by the way. And then the next strong level is at 600. So we're not quite in the middle. In the middle would be right around 573, but we're pretty much in the middle. So when you look at it from a structure, from a larger capital flow aspect, we're in the middle of 2 strong levels. So really the first thing is having conviction about which is your control. It's either chart 1, chart 3, or chart 4, or the daily, or maybe the 4-day. Which one is your control for the trade that you're doing? And then it's using the other charts to confirm. And it's either sticking with a trade or waiting for the next trade, the next probable reaction area, either on the downside or the upside that you trade. Is that clear, or does that make sense? It's really about being either I need to be in a trade because it's very clear where the market's going, or I need to be a patient and here's the downside reaction area and here's the upside reaction area of the next highest probable trade area or reaction zone. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. And just a follow-up question. Are you still using C2 as your entry chart, or you just stick with a control chart with conviction regardless?
Yeah, I mean, how long have you been in the training, if you don't mind me asking?
I mean, I kind of feel like an idiot, but I think probably a little over a month.
Yeah.
I'm about 80% through the videos. Just a little tough because I'm working full time, so I'm trying to train, and also watch the videos. So
So you're still in information overload in a way.
I feel like I'm struggling to find my edge and master my edge is
Order
where I'm
filled.
at.
Yeah. Well, it's still new to you. That's one of the first things. I mean, so yeah, chart 2 is always your entry chart. So regardless, chart 2 is the quickest chart because it's the quickest time frame. So it's always going to be your entry chart, or it's going to tell you what's happening within the other candles. So it's always going to be your entry chart. It's never your control chart. And this is an important point, actually, what you're asking here, which is having one chart be your control is the sole reason why you're doing that trade. So for instance, if chart 3 was my control, which is the 60, I'm saying, look, the fast momentum is going to hold up. It's checked it. It's going to hold up. So then what I do is then I cascade my thinking, since I'm using, because obviously chart 3 is a 60-minute chart. So it's larger time frame, bigger true range moves, so you have to think in a kind of a larger, you have to give it a larger movement for that trade to work out. What I mean by that is, if the fast momentum is going to hold on chart 3, that's a 60-minute candle. We're 8 minutes to this candle closing. What you really have to be projecting out is, okay, the trade that I'm in, if I'm long or I'm short, let's say you're long, what's the next 8 minutes going to do? And then what do the other charts tell me? Or whether or not that's going to be what the next 8 minutes are going to do? And then what's going to be the immediate action upon that 60-minute candle closing? Is it going to continue in the momentum up? Or is it going to go down and do another test of the fast momentum and react there as we expect and go back up? That's really the scenario that you're looking at if you were using chart 3, for instance, as your control. But when you do that, what you're doing is you're just looking for confirmation or risk. I guess not, or where your risk is at on the other charts. The other charts are either supporting the thesis that your control chart says, or they're not, or there's no clear indication, but you should be able to answer what should happen and what shouldn't happen. Meaning that, hey, this level shouldn't be closed below, or hey, on chart 2, it should, if it's going to remain long, then it better recapture momentum, and it better recapture bias, and then momentum better cross over bias and better stay above bias. And then there's just times like this where just volatility has just dropped off, and you have to take time out as a factor and just look and say, okay, what are the actions? What should happen and what shouldn't happen? That's really the thing that you're consistently asking yourself. For this trade, this long trade to work out, what should happen and what shouldn't happen, using the rules in the system and the indicators that we use. I know I said a lot, but is that clear?
Yeah, that makes sense.
It takes a while. It takes, like anything new you learn. If you, let's say you just learn how to disassemble an engine, and that's the first time you've done it. If you've only disassembled one engine and you had help, well, and then you go disassemble an engine by yourself, it's going to be slow going. At least you understand, you have the guideline, you understand what a carburetor is, you understand what heads are, you understand what a block is, you know what spark plugs are, et cetera, et cetera. But you're still going to be slow going at it. But if every week you rebuild from that point forward, every week you rebuilt an engine, you tore one down and rebuilt it yourself, after 3 or 4 months, you're going to be pretty proficient in doing that. You're going to be, when you're maybe taking apart the carburetor or something, you're going to notice, oh, this shouldn't be present because this is sign that there's too much oil, or there's a oil gas mixture wrong here or whatever, right? So it's like that in trading as well. You're in the stage where you learned a new system, and I think probably some new ways to think about the market. And what you have to do is you have to build, and I talked about this last night in Discord, where the secret I have is I just have my own theory of the market that works, and I believe works. And we see it work time and time again. And I believe it with conviction. So you've got a head start because you're adopting my theory of the market, but you still have to prove to yourself that those theories are valid. you still have to prove to yourself that gravity, for instance, it works the way that I said that gravity works.
Order filled.
Some of it you can take at faith, but at the same time, you do have to look at it from a perspective of, okay, I've got a foundation here. And that's why I say day in and day out, you can't trade another man's system, and you've got to make it your own. So now you're in the path. Now you're at the point where you've gone through a lot of the training and you get from a high level, but now you have to start molding it into your own personality, how you see the market work, and adopting it so that you have the conviction to take trades. You have the conviction to actually, put capital work in the market. I feel like I'm trying to be as helpful as possible and be specific. Hopefully this is helping.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. I mean, you just make it make it look so easy. I'm like, come on, man.
Yeah, you'll get there. It's like I said, for me, it's like me just clocking in. I don't, I'm not saying it doesn't feel special anymore, but now it just feels like I just clock in and it's what I do. I'm just part of the market. So, but that just comes from time, and that comes from really doing what you're doing, which is having a system, not changing it and trading it day in and day out. And then, someone will look at what you're doing in the future and say, you make it look so easy. They just won't see that you basically have stabilized. You have a foundation. And then that foundation helps you interpret what the market's doing at any given time on any given time frame. That's the number one thing that you need to get to and get comfortable at. I would say what the best thing for you to do is, since you work. So I started outlining, and I've got drawings here about from job to full-time trader. Some of it's practical advice, like I can tell whether or not someone's serious about being a full-time trader by asking them usually one question, or if they really thought about it. And it really comes down to healthcare. If someone's considered healthcare, then they've actually taken the steps. They've actually thought seriously about what it takes to be a full-time trader. If they haven't, then they're just assuming that they're just going to make money and then that's going to solve everything. But they haven't actually gone through the physical steps and said, okay, what is it? What is the reality of me being a full-time trader is what I'm saying. But that's a little off track from the main point that I wanted to make, which is there's two types of jobs, and I'm be interested what type of job you have. There's a job that allows for trading, day trading, and then there's a job that doesn't allow for day trading. So for instance, and just give an example, a line cook. Let's say I'm a line cook at a steakhouse or something, and it's a steakhouse that's open lunch to dinner. If I'm a line cook, my job doesn't allow for me any trading whatsoever. I can't just pop up my phone and manage. Number one, managing your positions from a phone is something that you can do, but you do have to have certain protocols in place, especially depending on what size you're trading at. But you can do it. But being a line cook would mean that you have a job that you have no access to day trading or trade management. And then the only other job that exists is that you have a job where there's some flexibility in your ability to trade. So like what type of job do you have?
I'm a emergency room physician.
Okay. So, I mean, you don't have to be specific, but so does that give you flexibility to check in with the market and trades throughout the day?
Not necessarily. So, right now I'm working about 11 shifts a month, and it kind of varies what hours. So I'd say right now I'm probably putting in, say like probably 8 days a month where I can trade at least in the mornings. And then Trade of 8 has the simulated market replay.
Yeah.
So I've been going back and I mean, it sounds stupid, but I've been going back and testing my system on every day that I was unable to trade to try to get in the hours to test my theory and try to, I don't know if that makes sense, to continue improving the skill even without being able to trade in real time.
No, that's awesome.
So,
I mean, that's exactly what you should be doing. So that's some people will say, well, I can't. So they'll limit themselves and then they won't even do that. So that's awesome that you're doing that. That's actually the step forward. That's actually the second best thing that you can do, because if you want to be a full-time trader, ideally you want to trade around the cash market. That's when the most volatility happens. Let's now, in your case, you're not able to because of, you know, the hold on, I just got filled for some things. Oh, on gold here. So doing replay mode is good because it is, you know, once again, it's one of the best ways to be able to train yourself and test the system. The challenge is, and is that for you to transition, let's say that your goal is to transition from a job to a trader, you're really not, that path really isn't totally realistic unless, and I'm getting more into the mechanics of getting there than the system, and I'll get back to the system, but for you to get there means that you'd have to save enough capital to survive, and then sometime flip the switch where you're no longer, let me manage this position to make sure that we're going to take some profit here in this pullback. I'm going to take a little bit off there.
Order filled. Order filled.
Do you understand what I'm saying? So what you're doing is you're training yourself to be in the market, but you're not transitioning yourself based on, and I'll get to the answer instead of just saying how you're not doing it. But instead of saying, okay, when can I actually trade the market? And then when do I want to trade the market? So ideally you want to trade during the day to be a full-time trader, and to trade when the most volatility happens during the cash market, the American New York cash market, ideally. But if capital-wise and wealth-wise and lifestyle-wise, you're not able to do that, training yourself to do that without a plan to do that is good for a while, but you're not really training yourself for the battle that you're going to be actually attending. The other aspect of doing that is, okay, that's good for testing the system. I might have to reverse here, so I'm just looking to see. 1 second here. It's 11:04. We'll stick with it here until it closes above the RDA on chart 2. Instead, finding a way that you can actually trade the markets after you've done your demo, after, you know, you've got the 10 green days, but finding a way that you can trade the markets and transition yourself within the current time frame that allows you to trade the markets. Does that make sense?
yeah, that makes sense.
So there's 2 ways to do that. Is you could preset trades up. No, you could just trade when you're off work and you have time, and then you trade the markets that are open during those times. You could do swing trading, or you could do day trading, where you basically set up trades and they either work out or not, and you're doing intraday swing trading, which is difficult to do in kind of these high volatility times that we have of late. They can still be done, but it's difficult to do. So does that make sense? Am I being clear?
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, the hope is that I see more green days, and then I would transition. I don't think I'll ever actually be true full-time, but I have the opportunity to decrease clinical work, and my hope is to transition more time into a trader and have that percentage flip where I'm trading more than I'm clinically working.
And you have that ability to control that?
I mean, fortunately, I am. I mean, my colleagues would think I'm crazy, but I think it's possible, and I think it's just hopefully. I think with your system, I think it's definitely um, possible. And I mean, luckily in my position, they don't really care how much I work, um, but I just have to make sure that I continue making enough to, um, pay bills and whatnot.
Well, that's sweet.
But
That actually is, so number one, it's more than doable. There's no question about whether or not it's doable. It's doable. Uh, and you actually have the best situation and a better situation because you have the ability to be flexible with your ability to actually make that happen. A lot of people don't, right? A lot of people, their job says, look, if you're doing this clinical stuff, we need you here 38 hours a week, minimum. But if you have that flexibility, that's awesome, because then that means that what you're doing is actually can be done, because basically you train yourself to trade during the actual markets, and you're just going to slowly transition your time. 1 month you might say, okay, instead of working 5 hours at my job, I'm going to take those 5 hours, not going to work them, but I'm going to trade the market. But by then you've already had your green days, your 10 green days. You already trust the system. You've done the the demo trading and the actual replay mode, and you're just showing up in real time. So that's actually a great path forward.
yeah, thank you. I mean, seeing your P&L, I mean, I know it. I don't know if it sounds shameful, but seeing your P&L is encouraging. So I'm like, it can be done. I know it can be done. So I think, yeah, I'm just trying to keep pushing forward because I feel like I had similar um, obstacles trying to like get into medical school and whatever. But I'm hoping the same determination and perseverance will continue improving myself as a trader and hopefully get to, a fifth of your level, and I'd be content.
Oh, Will, and I'll just share. So for me, how I transitioned, I had a business, and I had I I had to work in the business. So I had a business that wasn't running itself. I still had to show up every day. I did have a team. But I needed that income to survive, and I couldn't hire a manager to run the business. I could have, but then really I would have had to do something else to be able to survive income wise. That income needed to go to me. And I was losing interest in the business. But what I did is, it's just like anybody that has a job,
Order
is
filled.
that I told my team, once I got to the point where I said, hey, this is something that I actually can reliably and consistently pull capital. My system was down. I said, look, I'm going to trade the first hour of the market. So my team, I told my team, you can't reach me between 9:30 or 9:15 and 10:15 or 10:30 New York time. And then you can't reach me the last hour of the market. So I turned off my phone, turned off my email, turned off everything. Team couldn't get in touch with me at all, no matter what happened, what was blowing up. And I traded. And then that's how I transitioned out of being rely upon a job, but which is really my business, and full-time trading. And then after doing that for a while, a couple months, I was outstripping my income that I made in the business in 1 or 2 days for a whole month. And then it became very obvious.
Get the system down while you were like working and getting your working at your business and
Well, I've always been someone that is fanatical, but the only regrets I really have in my life, and I've shared this before, is that I've been an entrepreneur since I got on the military when I was in the my early 20s, or a consultant. So I've kind of always worked for myself. I've been in real estate, other stuff. And so I was, if if I wasn't focused, my mind wasn't focused on my business, then it was focused on trading when I was doing this transition, for instance. So I neglected my family as far as family time and being present uh, to get there. That's the only thing that I really regret from really, if I were to say, hey, how would I do it differently? Is that,
Mhm.
like, for instance, my daughter was in, did get up every day and make breakfast for her and walk her to the bus stop or take her to the bus stop
Stop field.
for school. But, you know, my mind would be either if, what I was doing before we left or focusing on what I had to do as soon as I got back. Um, and that was my life. So that's kind of how I transitioned through that. I am a type of person too that just when I get interested
Stop
in something,
field.
I get fully passionate and I kind of dive in head first and have to consume as much data and information as possible.
Mhm.
And overdo it. So I
Stop
do
field.
overdo it.
Stop
So,
field.
and I guess what I'm trying to say is that the benefit you have uh, above what I had is I couldn't find anybody that had as succinct of an understanding of the market and how it works to use as a foundation of my training or of my trading. I had to figure out much of what I know is borrowed from other people, but a lot of it is really just saying, hey, how this person describes the market. I don't know if their term is true or whatever, but that's kind of true, but that doesn't work out the majority of the time, or it only works out sometimes. And so, benefit is that I didn't have a starting foundation. I had to piece together, 10 to 12 different philosophies to come up with a unified theory of the market. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
Where,
Yeah, it's just incredible.
yeah, I'm not trying to be arrogant, but you have the benefit of a unified theory that is, I would argue, 80% there on the market.
Mhm.
And now it's up to you to make it your own based on what you
Order
see
field.
the market does and how your personality works, how you like to trade, how you like to take risk, how you like to scale into trades, how you like to manage trades, all that stuff that I can't imbue into you. I can philosophize about how it works and give you a general philosophy and a general outline to how it should work, but I can't be there on a psychological level, um, so that you have
Order
conviction.
field.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes 100%. I
Order
mean,
field.
yeah, that makes complete sense. I mean, I'm hoping to take a course with your nephew. Hopefully, he can give me some because I mean, your Discord's been like super helpful. There's just a few things that I think you like answered that were like really like the spark went off. So I'm hoping just to pick up more elements to my system that take me to the next level. But yeah, I mean, it makes sense. I think from what you're saying, it sounds like it's just a lot of putting in the time, trading your system, trading your edge, and then refining your system through hours and hours of trading.
Yeah, nothing beats going to the market and journaling and then, you know, but doing it in a way where, see, you've got, however you refine the system, you have a system that's not changing. So you're going into battle every day with the same gear, and certain gear is going to break. Certain gear is not going to be reliable. And you'll learn what gear is reliable and what gear isn't reliable for you, what gear is reliable, and you'll learn which gear you like, so that's something that can't be, well, while can be explained and could be put into your mind through training, it's something that experience has to give you because it's just the way it works, right?
Mhm.
So you're on the right path. I mean, it's frustrating because you want it to happen yesterday, and you get all the concepts probably, right? You have a good grasp of at a high level. Okay, I understand it. Or would you say that? Would you say you understand it more than you did a month ago?
Certain concepts, like your videos about developing your edge, were like super helpful. So I truly believe my theory, but in terms of like certain concepts that relate to my trading, I understand very well. But like key level to key level is something I struggle with and something I need to work on. And managing my trades is something I need to work on. So I know there's various areas of my trading that need work. But I'm hoping through journaling and whatnot. But I think the battle is fighting for time because there's so many things pulling, as you know, like I don't know, like my fiance was like, oh, like, you're trading all the time, you're not helping around the house, and this is, I don't know. So it's difficult to fight for the time and like establish like this is something I'm passionate about, something that I see a potential like better future. So it's difficult to fight for that time, but I don't know. I don't know if I'm going on a tangent. But.
No, you're not. You're actually making complete sense because it actually, that's the thing. So what is different about what you're doing compared to you really have a couple options, right? You want to be a trader, you have to either join a bank or a hedge fund or a prop firm, or I'm talking about an individual, your exact situation. You'd have to do that. And if you did that, then you'd have kind of a job, and then the people around you would support you more and say, okay, you're going about it the right way. They would at least say that you have a little bit more credibility. Or you have to go complete cowboy on your own and figure out everything on your own and ignore everybody else and just kind of button down and figure it out. Or the other thing was what you've done, which is find someone that resonates with you as far as thinking, or you feel that can give you a leg up to get to the next step, and then utilize that knowledge and then mold it into your own trade system.
Stop field.
That's really the path. So you're going down that path. So the interesting thing is that this discussion that you're having is actually the reality that anybody that's on the retail side or that's looking to be a trader, I'd say 99% of the people that are in Discord or following me or YouTube, whatever, are facing. They're in the same situation. So these relationship issues, the belief issues, these other issues, they're actually realistic aspects to actually you making it and you being successful, because it's stuff you have to psychologically and physically deal with on a daily basis. Is that, I get it 100% where, and this is where, one reason why I haven't done this job to full-time trader is because I realized half of the training is talking about these type of things, which is the family aspect, which you would say, okay, well, what does that have to do with the system? What does that have, really, how does that play even a role? Well, it actually does, because at the end of the day, if your relationship with your fiance is not great and it's consistently, and she's, I don't know, she or who they are consistently feeling that they're being neglected or that you're not keeping up your side of the bargain of the relationship, there's going to be a consistent strain there. And that consistent strain is going to carry over into your psychological mood when you go and approach the markets, because it's very hard to go from an antagonistic relationship to shutting the door in your office or your area. If you're fortunate, you have like an area like me where when you shut the door, you can't hear anything else in the household, and you're far enough away from everybody that you're kind of closed off. But if you're not fortunate in that psychological baggage, and I'm not saying I'm talking about it from a negative aspect, but from a trading aspect of you being zen into the mindset of focused on your trading, going from an antagonistic, I have a problem with my people that
Stop
I
filled.
love and I care about, to then focusing on actually trading and having your mind be free and empty and trading is actually a realistic thing that you have to deal with to get you to the path, to the next step you want to go to. Would you agree?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and the challenge is that where does that fit into talking about indicators and charts, right? How does, but it's actually one of the deciding factors of whether or not you're going to make it through your trading journey. Is that how do you navigate that? Uh, and I mean, my advice is you have to actually put that first, and then because if you don't put that first, unless you have the ability to completely block out whatever's going on within your relationship out of your mind when you're sitting down in front of charts, it's going to negatively affect you. So really you have to find, okay, I know my end state, I know my end goal. Now how do I be the rock? It actually takes a lot of strength on your part because you have to say, how do I be the rock and how do I be the foundation of this and still achieve the goals that I want to do and perform the duties I need to perform as a partner in this relationship, whatever relationship it may be. Could be family, friends, sibling relationship, parent relationship, fiance, stuff like that. So, that's one of the, it seems like it's off track. It's really not off track at all.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes total sense. I mean, I feel like a lot of it's just selling her my dream and then sticking to it. And then, I mean, luckily she's supportive, but I mean, thankfully I have a little bit of experience with it where it took me years to get into medical school and no one really believed in me at that time. And only I believed in me. And I just kept working and working. And eventually I was successful. And so I'm hoping the same perseverance um, will work in trading, which I suspect it will. And I'm hoping my partner continues to be supportive. But I think a lot of it is sharing my dream with her that, look, this is not a hobby. This is like my life that I'm trying to improve and put us on a better path financially. And um, so, yeah, I'm trying to make that dream come true through this. But yeah.
No, I think we all struggle from that. I think where you'll have to decide is how much of that do you put energy into, and this is going to sound bad. How do I word this? How much do you need to invest in the relationship for them to feel supported, feel loved, and so that you can focus on, and how much do they really, this is something I had to learn firsthand, how much do they really care outside of how much do they just need to feel what they want to feel to be happy so that you have a healthy relationship. I know I'm sounding like a psychologist now, but that's every person that is going down this path that has loved ones in their life where they have to deal with what you're dealing with. They have to figure out that balance. I think the easier answer is if you have someone that, I'm fortunate too. I have someone that tells me, I don't care how you make money as long as it's legal and it's consistent. You tell me you're going to make it and then it comes in and it's legal. I don't care what you do. So and she said, I'll support you. And she has supported me through everything I've done because I've kept my end of the bargain. So I've been fortunate in that aspect. But the second that I didn't keep my end of the bargain, then, it starts having a problem. The second that I say, hey, yeah, I can guarantee that every month I'm going to give you, or I
Stop
will
filled.
contribute X amount to the finances, right? The second that I don't do that is the second that challenges become a challenge. But so that was my personal. I didn't have much, outside of, and but they can only, if you go hardcore and don't spend time and quality time and not present when they're around, people can only put up with that from you for a little while. After a while, it becomes, they're just getting a shell of you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I know I'm talking way beyond just trading, but it's the reality of what it takes to kind of get to the next level.
Mhm. Yeah, I feel like I'm like a turtle. It's just that every day I make small improvements, and I feel like even if I went balls to the wall, it's not like trading. I'm gonna become you tomorrow anyway. So this is probably gonna take years of hard work, and so that's the way I approach it anyway. That eventually, over years' time of consistent hours put in, this will pay off.
I would say that, yeah, and I'm not one to. That's a good attitude to have, actually. I would say someone with your attitude, though, it's not going to take years because you're going to be. The thing is, most people, and if you're not doing this, most people, well, you've already proven it by. I don't know the story of you getting into medical school. You obviously got through medical school, so you had you had a lot. You've already overcome a lot of hardships that people in your life just didn't see possible for you, but you saw it and you saw it through. This is the same thing, like exactly what you're saying. It's the same thing. The difference is that it's only you, and you have to build your own feedback machine. Like that's why journaling is so important. And it feels like that you're just making these little, if you look like at a measuring stick, and you're just making these little tick improvements, but that's compounding. The thing is that the improvements that you're making are compounding improvements.
Stop field.
Where at the end of 2 months, instead of a one tick movement, the movements between your experience and your understanding and you getting to are no longer a one tick movement. Each daily movement is 2 ticks. And then after a little bit of while, each daily movement is not just 2 ticks, it's 4 ticks. So it's a compounding movement if you just stay focused and just put your head down and just say, okay, I know it's possible. Now I just need to figure out what works for me within the confines of the system.
Right.
I would suggest one of the things is that, get good at reading chart 4 and using chart 4 as your structure. I call it the structure of the market. So just get good at using chart 4 would be one thing to first adopt.
Really? Because I've been like obsessed with C1 and using it as my control chart and all my setups, but
Stop field.
I'll start studying C4 then. And
Stop field.
Yeah, so C1 is a 5-minute chart. You can. It is a good chart. It's also one of the most used charts out there in trading. So obviously, a lot of systems have the 5-minute chart as part of one of their charts. The difference with chart 4 is that chart 4 takes time out as a factor. And you probably heard me say this before and in the training. You're seeing the actual capital flow of the market in chart 4. And capital can't hide on chart 4. Levels are almost gold on chart 4. The reaction zones are pretty solid on chart 4. You'll see on chart 4 when you get better at identifying strong levels and weak levels. And if you haven't gone through this part of the training, I can send it over to you directly. But identifying weak levels and strong levels on chart 4 will really be, you'll you'll know the upside and the downside targets that the market wants to get to by just knowing
Stop field.
the strong levels. So for instance, if you look at chart 4 right now, this is this is actually a really good example. I'm going to send this over. I'll put this in general. Look, market just sold off the NQ and I was in this trade. When I've been taking profit was up about probably 22 grand at one point, but so
I'm not distracting your trading, by the way.
no, I've been trading this. I've been trading this whole time.
Okay.
Stop field.
That's what I'm scared of, is I know your time's valuable, so I don't want to.
No, I've been. No, this has been a good. I mean, it's a good conversation. At least I think it's good. I think it will help. I think it's helping a lot of people. But so where the market just turned there on chart 4 is a weak level. It's a weak level because if you look left of the chart, your strong level really is more prominent. Your strong level on the downside is right around 454. But this is why I'm saying get good at using chart 4, because in markets where you have the ability to have tick charts in a chart 4, that move there, if you would, so I was shorting down to that move. That's where I took the majority of my profits, is right around 5116. But look at the move from that level, from the level of 5114 or so, 5117 or so. The market went from 5117 or 5119 all the way up to 542 in the matter of 1123, in a matter of 7 minutes. That's the power of chart 4 right there. There's a...
How did you know that's a level? 5519.
Well, I'll send you that specific training, but once you get good at identifying levels, then the market moves levels to level.
Yeah, I feel like I'm trash at levels, and it's something I struggle with, honestly. I need to look at the training videos again, because I feel like it's
Order
something
filled.
I get
Yeah.
confused. I'm like trying to use Fibonacci retracements, trying to use support and resistance. So I feel like I struggle to figure out what or how to determine important levels.
No, don't. I mean, you can use Fibonacci. Here's I'm going to send you directly. Well, I'll share this actually in the Alpha Den. I can generally do this. So here's the 2 pages. There's the levels pages, and then there is the advanced levels training.
Here is the level and candle rules section of your. Okay.
And then the advanced levels training. And then any questions that you have after going through that, ask in the den. And then if it's not succinctly covered, I'll of course answer it, or I'll do a bark on it, or I'll do a quick video where if you still have questions from identifying a strong level or what a weak level is, but there's more than, there's on the advanced levels, for instance, there's 60 minutes. There's about 100 minutes of video training there, plus video, plus images, and kind of explaining how to identify the levels.
So that's your theory of the market, is that the market goes from strong level to strong level.
Yeah, it absolutely does. So, there's really only 3 ways to look at it. And I mentioned this last night, which is you either believe that the market goes from a pivot to a pivot, so pivot high to pivot low. And then how do you identify those pivots? Okay, that becomes a challenge. Or you believe that the market moves from strong level to strong level, which is I believe in the pivot theory, but I also believe more in the strong level to strong level, because day after day, you can see me trading it and trading it relatively successful. Or you believe that the market moves from value range to value range, meaning that the market has a range of value and then it moves from value range to value range. Those are the only three ways to think about how the market works. There's no other way. There's no,
Really?
yeah. See the difference between me and a lot of other trainers out there and a lot of other stuff you probably see. I'm not tooting my own horn. I'm not being arrogant. Is that I distill things down into truths, meaning that there's only two type of trades you do: fade or momentum. That's it. You don't have to worry about any other ones. What determines a fade or momentum trade determines what control chart you're on. So if you use, for instance, chart 1 as your control, and when you're executing that trade and your thesis of the trade is that that trade is with the momentum and the bias of the market, then that trade is a momentum trade. And you could say, well, on the 60-minute chart, though, it's a fade trade. Yeah, of course. But your control chart is what actually decides you actually trading with conviction and putting your capital at work. So that's what matters as far as whether or not that trade works out and how you evaluate and how you manage that trade. Same with there's only, and I mentioned this last night, there's only 4 styles of trading, 4 time frames of trading. Only 4. There's day trading, which is where you basically go flat during the day, and that's what you see me do primarily on streams. There's short-term swing trading, which is under 12 months. So it's basically you get into swing trades, which I do. And my average swing trade, I think now is 68 days. Average profit is, I think 34.7% or something. I just did the number. That's why I know it. And then there's long-term swing trades, which is over 12 months. And then there's portfolio trades. These are the only 4 type of trades that exist. And I don't care if you're trading options or whatever else, however you're experiencing it. If you're buying gold, however you're putting capital at play in the capital markets, there's only 4 time frame trades. There's day trading, 2 types of swing trades, and portfolio trades. And portfolio trades are things that you maybe want to own for life, things that pay dividends. The only other thing that goes on top of that is hedging, where you basically say, hey, look, I have a portfolio of gold stocks, but I think gold's going to go down in the next 6 quarters. So I think these stocks are going to take a hit. Well, I'm going to hedge that position by doing some hedging, maybe some ETFs or, some whatever you're doing, however you want to express that. So I use that example because what I've done and is much different than a lot of things I see out there, because I basically say there's only 2 types of trades and there's only 4 timelines of trades. So, and then the system doesn't change in any of those. It's just the time, it's just the way the charts are set up and the charts that you use. And maybe I will say this, with longer term trades, some fundamentals and maybe 1 or 2 other indicators play a role. Other than that, it's all the same system. But I distill things down to this is the, do you get that feeling or does that not come across?
That there's certain concepts that you believe in and that your entire system revolves around, and you trade those with conviction.
And I think are right. So I would say almost truths. Not to be arrogant, just truths, because then I try not to use fancy words like liquidity pools or stuff like that, because I don't know what the hell a liquidity pool is. But so I define things based on how the market moves and then try to either use a term that is already out there or adopt a term based on how the market moves based on just looking at charts. That's all. No other information. sit down and
I guess I struggle with
go ahead.
the system, putting all the pieces together because I feel like and I'm probably incorrect, so I'm glad that we had this conversation for multiple reasons, but my whole theory, which I was trading day in, day out for the past week, has been that momentum, whatever momentum
Order
is,
filled.
whenever it comes across a major reaction area, it's going to continue in the direction of the momentum. And I feel like it's good, but it's not. I feel like I'm missing something really important. So I struggle with putting the momentum concept with the key levels and treating those in sync. I don't know if that makes sense.
No, it does make sense. And so that's why you're on the right path as far as saying that, the traditional word people use is trend, but
Order filled.
we use momentum,
Order filled.
which is you assume momentum's going to
Order
hold
filled.
until it doesn't.
Mhm.
And when momentum doesn't, so that's why, like yesterday, actually every day this week, trading momentum, except for a few times, there's been switchover time. So there's been a switchover in momentum here. It went from momentum long so for instance, chart 4 went from momentum and bias long to now it's momentum and bias short. And it's deciding whether or not it actually wants to go down to the next level, which is the next level is 486 or 464 to 458. That's the next level down on chart 4. So looking at that, that's why momentum and bias is specific to the chart that you're looking at. And then the other charts have their own momentum and bias state. And then based on that, you either take a trade based on, do you want to fade that move or do you want to go with the momentum that the chart's telling you? And then there is the aspect of looking at the story of the chart and saying, okay, within the context of what the chart has done and where it's at relative to this day and the other levels. So for instance, a good example is the NQ right now is flirting with testing the day open for the NQ, which is right around 513. So it hasn't tagged it yet. But knowing that that level is below the 513 level is important in your trading because you know it's an important level, the day open of the NQ. So it hasn't been tested yet. It's a reaction zone. It's a target. Now that chart 4 has switched to momentum short, chart 2 is staying momentum short and bias short. Well, our first level is that 513 of the daily level. And then if you go to chart 4 and you say, okay, well, where's 513 comparatively to where the strong levels are? Well, that aligns pretty closely with the strong level in chart 4, but that's already been tested. So this will be the second test of this strong level. Looks like it's going to break. Our next zone that we need to be concerned about from there is 548,550. That's the next. It's actually a weak level, and you'll get this when you go through the training. The weak level is right around 485, 484 on chart 4. That's our target. Huh?
Do you ever use ATR bands as levels, or that would be the more so reaction areas than levels?
I mean, yeah, those are don't look at them as levels. Look at them as reaction zones. And if I send over to you right now chart 4, and I'll do this in the general as well. Look at something interesting there. See that second yellow line where price has just breached? And then see right around 47850 on chart 4.
Yeah.
You notice how the second band, the second lower band of the RDA aligns with that level as well.
Yeah, I see that.
So that's what we call congruency, meaning that, hey, two of our indicators in our system, a weak level, a level, and an extreme band of the RDA align in the same price zone. Okay, those are two things that are telling us that, hey, that's probably a potential target. Now we're just breaching the daily open. So that's another thing on the NQ. But you notice we're going for that next level. So it might not get there just because this is why trading is hard, because right now it just breached the daily open of the NQ, and it's the first time it tagged it. So it's going to have a reaction. So that reaction might not, the reaction might be that the daily open is going to hold and it's not going to get to that level.
Mm-hmm.
But you can, I don't know if you can see, I'm already short in the trade anyways. I'm in 20 lots of about $5,000.
Mm-hmm.
So
20.
so I was already trading this with the expectation. I was already trading what we were talking about in real time. I was already entered the position, already short, focusing on the next level. You know, for me, like I said, I see these levels. I do it second nature. I'm reading the momentum of multiple charts. I'm looking at them. So while we were talking, I was trading. I was setting up for this trade. So I'm still, based on everything I see now, the target of 485 is still on deck. Looks like it's still in play. But what's happening right now with price action as we speak is this is the time where it touched the daily open on the NQ. It's a reaction zone. The price action that we're seeing right now is a reaction to whether or not the market wants to hold the daily open of the NQ. That's the price action that we're seeing right now. So it looks like it's going to fail and go down to the level that we've earmarked. And you did get a chance, if you weren't in that trade, to buy that pullback, or to sell that pullback, I should say.
So so you're more so you're targeting these levels. You're not, because I was setting ATR bands as my targets, and I feel like that's incorrect.
Yeah, that's incorrect. I mean, you can use them. They're generally, you don't want to use them in the way that you're describing. They're more as a additional. They are helpful, but I wouldn't use them as targets, because you either believe, like I said, like the three ways that the market moves, right? Which we believe that the market moves from level to level. So that's the foundation of our trading. And here's the other thing about levels. Every chart you can apply that philosophy, meaning that chart 2, the small tick chart, you can apply the level to level philosophy. Chart 1, you can apply the level to level philosophy. Every chart you can apply. So that's the foundation of your trading philosophy.
No, I mean, I really appreciate it. I just honestly feel stupid talking to you sometimes, because I feel like I'm not anywhere close to your level to have like a good conversation. So I've been a little nervous to I guess ask my questions, but I'm glad that you found them helpful as well. I just thought they were all be stupid. So
Oh, no, there's no, I mean, one of the things that when you become an alpha, I look at it more as a peer relationship. I know it doesn't feel like it from your perspective, but I look at it as a peer relationship, as far as we're kind of in the same club, we're adopting the same thinking, and we're in this together with the same mindset, meaning that we're speaking the same language. Yeah, it's a language that I developed, but you've agreed to kind of speak the same language. So I relish the conversations, because you've self-selected yourself to kind of be in the same thinking as me and the other people that are alphas, if that makes sense.
yeah, I appreciate that.
I want to say thank you, both of you. This has been great listening to, and I hope it continues, but I just wanted to put it out there. Great questions and really valuable stuff. to listen to.
I appreciate it, Jules. Thanks.
Yeah, sorry to tell you my life story, I guess, on the Discord, but you seem like a good guy, so.
No, all good. All good. I appreciate it. It's that's the thing that is interesting about kind of where we're at in trading, is that it really is, it's a combination of being a professional trader, in air quotes, and us trying to be traders, or not trying, us being traders. But then because of we are not associated with a prop firm, a hedge fund, or a bank, the things that we have to deal with and overcome and kind of develop is it's personal and private, or it's not, it is private, but a lot of it, everybody's dealing with those private issues, and they're not talked about, I think, enough. And that's one of the, I don't know if you saw much of what I shared last night, but I did start with, someone in the den asked about additional training, like or price action training, if I recommended any. And I'm not hiding any
Order filled.
like other training or other people.
Order filled.
It's just that I believe that I've
Order
distilled
filled.
all the
filled.
training I've gone through over the years, all the books I've read and everything, into what I think is the best starting theory for the market. That's what I believe. So like Al Brooks, that's someone I've mentioned. Al Brooks stuff is great. It's just you've got to wade through hours and hours of Al Brooks talking before you get to
His course
gems.
is
Huh?
over 100 hours long, and like, I don't know. I mean, he seems like he knows what he's talking about, but I'm like, I don't want to change course. I feel like this system is the way. So I don't. The only thing is, like, if you were to say, "Hey, this is how you improve," is to go watch Al Brooks or go read all his books, I'll
Yeah.
do it. But I don't necessarily want to like adopt a different system per se. Like, if that makes sense.
No, what I'm saying is that because of the fanatical nature of how I approach things and the amount of training and stuff I've gone through, I've spent over $50,000 in training. I've read over 300 books on trading. One of these days I will pull out I will do a video with all the notebooks that I have of notes. It'll probably make me look like an insane mad scientist person, but I just have notes and notes and notes. I mean, I took the top 300 indicators of TradingView, and then I went through every one of them and basically have a notebook on every one of them. Changing values, looking to see if there's any value there. Using it the way it was suggested, using it opposite the way it was suggested. So that's why when someone asks me that, I don't want to send someone down a path where, hey, you're putting yourself backwards, because I do believe that I've distilled the thinking of, let's say, the majority of concepts out there in trading into what you see here as the system. If that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it makes perfect sense.
So some of the price action stuff that I teach is a direct result of being inspired from what Al Brooks teach. They say good.
Some of the stuff you say is similar to some of the stuff. I mean, I'm not familiar with his stuff anyway, but like always in, I thought was a term that Al Brooks referred to. So I thought that was interesting.
That's interesting. I didn't know that. Maybe I did borrow. I mean, borrow is a nice way to say steal, I guess, but maybe I did borrow that
I
always
don't know
in.
enough about it, but I think he makes mentions to things like that. So I thought that was interesting that
Order filled.
you must have some influence from Al Brooks. But I don't know.
Well, one thing with Al Brooks, that why I mention as an outlier, is because he like me, believes the charts. And what he teaches is to go bar by bar. And he teaches specific times and pivots and other stuff. I mean, he teaches a lot of stuff. That's the problem, is that
It's too much.
it is too much. And so, when I decided to actually like create a training for my system that I trade, I said, okay, I can't overwhelm, even though it still is overwhelming, but I have to distill the top knowledge or the top theories that come into a unifying theory that someone needs to know in order to understand how the market works, to then trade it and develop and apply their own system, which is derivative of the system. But that's how I approached it. So I took all the stuff that I had went through and I said, okay, well, I didn't consciously do this. I didn't consciously say, hey, so and so believes in this theory of the market, like value channels, for instance. I read that in someone's book years ago, and I don't remember whose book. I probably could find it. It's a
The 5-minute trader. I think it's that guy.
okay. So I'll have to look
I
it up.
haven't read it.
So value channels is something that I use. I trade with, especially in the longer term and portfolio trades. The value channels play a huge role in how we trade that strategy. But I didn't come up with that concept. I didn't come up with the concept of how to develop a value channel. I just adopted it and then started using it. And then now people that like you, that are an alpha, that are in the training, basically you get the benefit of me having read those books. Probably if that person had training, probably bought their training, went through the training, and then tried to trade it, and then realized, okay, here's the things of that work, and here's the things of it that don't work, and here's the things that you should pay attention to. So that's what I've done with every concept that's, in the training, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I mean, that's like thousands of hours, and not to mention the money aspect too. That's cut down. That kind of distilled and provided a workable system that I feel like I just need to, once I understand the system better, then I want to put it to work and master it, I guess, in the markets.
For sure. And, and I know my stuff can be even overwhelming. But I think one of the differences, I do show up every day. And one of the things I had to grow into is realizing that my role is to reinforce the things, the theory every day and approach it from different angles. Like, I assumed if you went through 80% of the training that you would have understood levels and how to draw levels. But listening to you, and it's obvious that you are missing one of the core foundations of how the market moves and works. And that's either through...
Yeah, I think there's concepts that I struggle with that, I don't know. Like, I took a truth you said about momentum, and I just ran with it, and I said this will be my edge. But I feel like I'm missing parts of the system that are critical, so I need to learn levels well, it sounds like, and then
I guess look at it this way, and sorry to break in, but look at the world that we inhabit, the physical world, right? We have gravity, we have electromagnetism, we have light. We could go deeper down the rabbit hole of what we have that we understand. But and some of those things you would think are more, like gravity might be more important than others. But at the end of the day, do we really know? But we have an understanding of how the universe works that we can actually reliably, mathematically go out there and say and predict things on the universe. Well, of course, we come across things that don't fit that model, which is just like trading. But in the universe, we can look at stars, we can look at galaxies, we can and we can mathematically predict a lot of things, and that's based on our understanding of these theories of gravity, these theories of electromagnetism, these theories of how light works, these theories of how, light travels and sound travels and all this other stuff. But none of those theories are more important than the other. They all combine into one universal theory of our understanding of the universe. It's the same way with what you're doing with trading. So momentum and understanding that is important. Understanding bias is important. Just as understanding how to read the charts from a level by level basis is important. Those are all they're individual theories, and at certain times, depending on how you're trading the market or how you're analyzing the market, some theories play a bigger precedent at that time than other theories. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.